Hi, I'm Mina.
And I'm Yules.
Thanks for tuning in to Artificially Informed.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show engineered to cut through the noise of the global information flow.
There's a lot of it today.
There is. Our job is to deliver those core, interconnected nuggets of knowledge that let you understand not just what happened, but, why it actually matters.
And today's deep dive is, well, it's colossal.
Hmm.
We're spanning everything from the edges of deep space exploration right down to the very murky ethics of AI-driven commerce.
All while navigating this high-stakes geopolitical landscape that just seems to be getting more and more complex.
It is a dense data stream. So our mission is to take this flood of global events, and we're talking about breakthroughs in fundamental science, a genuine reckoning in the tech sector, massive economic and political shifts, and synthesize it for you.
Yeah, we're looking for those surprising connections.
Exactly.
Synthesis, not summary. That's the goal. And today, it feels like we're seeing three huge narratives all converging at once. On one hand, you have science and space exploration achieving these staggering feats that almost suggest a permanent off-world future for humanity is, well, on the table.
And on the other hand, you have the technology sector right here on Earth that seems to be struggling to deliver on some of its grandest promises. And that's leading to bankruptcies and some really intense regulatory scrutiny.
Especially around deceptive marketing. We'll get into that.
Oh, definitely. And also the invisible rise of algorithmic consumer costs, which is a huge story.
And then framing all of that is this surge in global political and economic tension. I mean, we're talking about U.S. foreign policy directly dictating global oil prices, and this massive internal fight within the European Union, the EU, that could shatter international financial norms.
And it's all centered on the fate of frozen Russian assets.
It's a dynamic day.
It is. So let's unpack these layers. Let's jump straight into the great beyond with our first segment, the new space race and fundamental science.
Let's do it. We begin with NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and, not the rocket launches, but the incredible work being done to make long-term human space habitation a reality.
Yeah, we're talking about the Human Health and Performance Directorate at Johnson Space Center, specifically a group called TECH, that's toxicology and environmental chemistry.
So what exactly are they focused on?
Well, the TECH group's work, it might not grab the headlines, but it is fundamentally more critical to the Artemis program and, a future Mars mission than almost anything else. Their mandate is to be the ultimate guardians of astronaut health in these closed, hostile environments.
So they're preparing for moonwalks right now.
They are. They're running intense simulations, focusing with laser precision on air and water quality. If you want humans to survive off-world for years, you absolutely have to perfect life support. It's non-negotiable.
And the specific details of what they're managing to achieve they're phenomenal. Everyone knows space missions require recycling water, but the efficiency they've hit is the real story here.
It really is. They are reclaiming water from astronaut urine and other wastewater at an 85% water recovery rate.
85%.
Think about the physics of that for a second. Every single kilogram you launch into orbit or you send to the moon costs an astronomical amount of money. So that 85%, it's not just a high water mark for efficiency. It's the ultimate economic metric for deep space travel.
It changes the entire equation.
It drastically reduces the need for these constant, incredibly expensive resupply missions that are just carrying bulk water. The TECH group is essentially designing the chemical circulatory system that ensures survival millions of miles from the nearest Earth-based resupply.
They're focused on preventing mission-ending contamination from inside the spacecraft itself.
That's it. Environmental limits, continuous monitoring of toxic exposures. It's the invisible shield keeping everyone alive.
And that focus on survival, where failure is just not an option, that brings us to the challenges of data analysis in this extreme environment.
Yeah, the Statistics and Data Science team, or S&DS, at NASA, is grappling with problems that, they challenge the very foundation of modern data science.
This is where it gets really interesting for you, the listener.
It is.
Yeah.
Because on Earth, we are obsessed with big data. We want massive sample sizes to get statistical significance. But in space, that's just impossible.
Right. You have a critically small sample size, a handful of perfectly healthy, specialized astronauts.
And severe operational limitations on the kinds of biomedical experiments you can even run. So if your sample size, your N, is tiny, how do you make sure the data you do collect is statistically reliable? How do you make sure it's bias-free?
That's the innovation then.
That's the innovation. The S&DS team isn't just facilitating research. They're developing entirely new statistical methodologies. They have to create these customized, highly sophisticated techniques that maximize the information you can get from every single data point.
So they're moving from a big data volume approach.
To a small data, high precision reliability approach. And that is a massive trend across all advanced industries, from personalized medicine to material science. And NASA is basically pioneering it out of necessity.
So ingenuity and methodology is just as valuable as the engineering feats?
Absolutely.
Okay, so shifting to the hardware. The Artemis II test flight, it's planned for early 2026, and it's approaching fast. And the political and commercial framework around it is just as critical.
The diplomatic framework is the Artemis Accords. It now boasts 59 signatory nations. So this is not just a U.S. mission.
It's an international effort.
It is, and it's establishing norms for peaceful and responsible exploration. And crucially, NASA is heavily reliant on the Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative, or CLPS, to actually get gear and eventually humans to the lunar surface.
And we saw a perfect illustration of that partnership recently. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, was testing the Blue Ghost Mission 2 lander from Firefly Aerospace.
Right. And JPL's Environmental Test Laboratory is the gold standard for this stuff. They are taking a full-scale model of the Firefly lander and subjecting it to, well, environmental torture.
Slight chuckle, environmental torture.
I mean, they're simulating the horrific vibrations, the shock waves, the acoustic environments in a rocket launch. Firefly is an agile private sector partner, but NASA provides that necessary high-stakes quality assurance.
It's that blend of public sector expertise and private sector speed.
That's the only way the Artemis timeline becomes viable. It ensures redundancy and mission resilience.
And to power this whole new space ecosystem, NASA is intensely focused on talent cultivation. This brings us to the NASA Orbit Challenge.
Orbit stands for Opportunities in Research, Business, Innovation, and Technology.
Catchy.
Slight chuckle, very. But the challenge is structured precisely to bridge the gap between academic innovation and commercial execution. They're offering substantial prize funding up to $380,000 for university and college students. And the structure is key. It has two tracks.
The Orbit Earth track and the Orbit Space track.
Exactly. Orbit Earth asks students to take NASA's existing intellectual property, so think like leveraging specialized patents in sensor technology or material science, and propose novel commercial applications here on the ground.
And Orbit Space.
That's focused on designing systems that directly feed into the Artemis missions. So it ensures NASA isn't just innovating in-house, they are mentoring and funding the next generation of space entrepreneurs, effectively outsourcing some of the critical thinking needed for long-term lunar sustainability.
Okay, so moving from that proactive success to the fragility of our current orbital assets, we have some concerning news about one of our veterans orbiting Mars.
Yeah, the Mars Atmosphere and Volatile Evolution Spacecraft, or MAVEN.
What's the status?
MAVEN has gone silent and is reportedly spinning uncontrollably while it's orbiting Mars. This is alarming.
What was its mission?
MAVEN has been fundamental to our understanding of planetary evolution, specifically how Mars lost its atmosphere to solar winds, which is what turned it into the cold, arid world we know today.
So losing that data stream would be a huge setback.
A significant scientific setback. It's a reminder of just how thin the margin for error is in these complex, distant missions.
The challenges MVN faces are a stark reminder of that fragility. But even as one data stream fades, the universe is offering us a spectacular new one, at least temporarily.
Yeah, the interstellar comet 3I@S.
This is pure cosmic opportunity.
It is. The closest approach of 3I is happening this week, and it offers astronomers this rare, temporary access to an object that originated entirely outside of our solar system. We just don't get many opportunities to study interstellar travelers like this.
And why is that origin story so crucial to understanding our own planetary history?
Well, interstellar comets carry pristine, untouched materials from the environments where they formed, way outside the influence of our sun. So by analyzing their composition, the unique mix of ices and silicates and organic molecules, we can gain critical insight into solar system formation.
The origins of our planet's building blocks.
And maybe, most profoundly, the ultimate source of water on Earth billions of years ago.
And this is where the whole discussion just pivots to the search for life.
It does, because the James Webb Space Telescope, the JWST, has just delivered a pivotal breakthrough concerning the stability of dust disks around stars.
This finding is a radical revision of how planets are born.
It really is. Previously, the prevailing assumption was that these protoplanetary dust disks, the literal building blocks of planets, would be dissipated relatively quickly by the intense stellar winds and radiation pressure from their central star.
But the presence of a companion star just changes that timeline entirely.
Completely. The JWST detected a companion star that is acting like a gravitational shield. It's stabilizing a massive dust disk around a primary star.
A gravitational shield.
Yeah, and this insight is absolutely crucial for the search for Earth-like exoplanets. A stable, long-lasting dust disk means that the accretion process, the slow gathering of dust particles into kilometer-sized planetesimals, it just has a much longer window to operate.
So we've basically found a key to longevity for potential star systems. If we apply this lesson, we suddenly know where to look next for systems that have the patience to form rocky, Earth-like worlds.
Exactly. This discovery suggests that companion stars, which we might not have even been looking for, are quietly enabling planet formation in systems we previously thought were too hostile, or maybe just too short-lived. It fundamentally shifts our search parameters.
Incredible. Okay, finally, in this segment, let's look at the infrastructure being built to support this new space economy. The commercial sector is just accelerating, and that's exemplified by SpaceX's routine high-cadence operations.
Yeah, we just saw SpaceX successfully conduct a dual-coast launch of 2 Falcon 9 rockets, deploying even more Starlink satellites. This isn't just business as usual anymore.
It's the new normal.
It highlights the increasing normalization of rapid-fire, high-cadence launches. It's about the relentless expansion of global broadband infrastructure, which is redefining connectivity on Earth and in low Earth orbit.
And we should also acknowledge the successful docking of the Russian Soyuz MS-28 crewed spacecraft with the International Space Station, the ISS, on December 17, 2025.
It's a good reminder that despite acute geopolitical friction down here on the ground, crucial cooperation in orbit continues, sustaining the station's operation.
That visual of the docking, it really highlights that the necessity of maintaining the ISS transcends a lot of the current political disputes.
It does.
But the truly revolutionary shift in orbital infrastructure is probably Vast's Haven 1 commercial space station scheduled for launch next year.
And the power source they plan to use is what makes it so revolutionary.
What are they using?
Vast Haven 1 is planned to utilize a 1 milliW reactor to power the station.
A nuclear reactor.
A nuclear reactor. This is a genuinely groundbreaking step. It's drawing heavily on the development of advanced nuclear technologies, specifically small modular reactors, or SMRs.
So why is 1 megawatt so pivotal for a commercial station? I mean, why not just use solar arrays like the ISS?
Solar arrays simply cannot provide the sustained, robust, and scalable power required for true commercial space manufacturing or, resource processing. A 1 milliW reactor provides the foundation for industrial-scale activities in microgravity.
So this is positioning Haven 1 not just as another lab.
Not at all. It's positioning it as a permanent, powerful, multidisciplinary research and potential manufacturing platform. It's going to attract scientists and engineers who need that high energy density to truly explore the limits of off-world operations. This is the first practical step toward a space-based economy reliant on advanced power generation.
So the ultimate takeaway here for you is that the infrastructure for a permanent human presence in space is being built right now.
It's supported by diplomatic efforts, private capital, massive technological leaps from recycling 85% of your urine to pioneering small nuclear reactors.
And what we learned from stabilizing dust disks and perfecting data analysis in these constrained environments has immediate invaluable applications right here on Earth.
It's the ultimate dual benefit scenario. Necessity in orbit is driving innovation that creates resilience right here on the ground.
Okay, let's pull our focus back to Earth and pivot from the spectacular success of space science to what we're calling the tech reckoning here in Silicon Valley and the automotive world.
Yeah, and the problem, it seems, is less about the technology itself and more about the gap between the marketing promises and the deliverable reality.
A gap which is perfectly exemplified by the bankruptcy filing of Lunar Technologies, Inc.
Lunar, which was founded by the very young Austin Russell, was once a star in the autonomous vehicle supply chain.
Yeah.
They focused on advanced LiDAR systems.
And LiDAR technology, for those who aren't familiar, is essentially the laser-based radar that gives autonomous cars the precise 3D vision of the world.
That's right.
So what caused such a high-profile failure?
Well, the primary catalyst was a massive commercial setback. It's being called the doomed Volvo deal. Volvo, which had been a key partner and investor, unexpectedly halted its large-scale orders for lunar sensors way back in 2022. And that just sent shockwaves through the company's finances.
So it sounds like a single client pulling out exposed a vulnerability in the whole market model.
It did. And the failure is symptomatic of a broader reckoning in the LiDAR and autonomous vehicle sector. These firms operate with extremely high R&D costs, and they were banking on widespread adoption of level 4 or level 5 autonomy that, well, it just hasn't materialized yet.
So when the technological promise outpaces consumer demand and, I guess, regulatory readiness?
The companies that are built on these high valuations and very limited client bases face immense pressure. Luminar's collapse, it really puts scrutiny on every specialized sensor firm that's reliant on a small handful of automakers.
And that theme of technological capability versus marketing promises leads us straight to the controversy surrounding Tesla.
Oh, yeah.
A California judge recently ruled that Tesla engaged in deceptive marketing practices regarding its autopilot feature.
This is a landmark ruling for consumer protection in advanced automotive tech. And we have to be crystal clear on the regulatory reality here. As of December 2025, Tesla's full self-driving system, or FSD, is officially classified by regulatory bodies as a Level 2 Advanced Driver Assistance System, an ADS.
Okay, so explain Level 2 ADS for us in practical terms. What does that classification functionally mean for the person behind the wheel?
It means the system provides steering and acceleration assistance, but the human driver must be continuously engaged.
Always.
Always. They are responsible for monitoring the environment and operating the vehicle at all times. Level 2 is assistance. It is not automation.
So the court ruling validates the argument that the brand names themselves, autopilot, and full self-driving are the problem.
They directly and dangerously mislead consumers into believing the system is capable of full autonomy. It contradicts years and years of promises from CEO Elon Musk. The legal system is finally forcing a transparency that the marketing department refused to provide.
So we've moved from a reckoning in the hardware sector to this incredible consolidation of financial power in the AI sector, and it's being driven by just astronomical investment figures.
Amazon and OpenAI are aligning in a major way.
The numbers are staggering.
They are. Amazon is reportedly in talks to invest $10 billion in OpenAI. And this follows, it doesn't replace a previous multi-year $38 billion cloud computing deal they secured just a few months ago.
$38 billion. This speaks to that concept of circular deals that we've been tracking.
Exactly.
So what is the strategic significance of these massive looping investments?
At the end of the day, it's entirely about infrastructure lock-in. AI models require gargantuan amounts of computing power, so tech giants like Amazon are willing to funnel vast amounts of capital, in this case, $10 billion to leading AI developers like OpenAI.
And in exchange?
In exchange, OpenAI utilizes Amazon's cloud computing infrastructure, often running on Amazon's own custom-designed AI chips. It ensures Amazon remains absolutely central to the AI infrastructure race, while limiting OpenAI's ability to scale quickly using rival clouds like Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud.
It's a calculated move to lock down the future infrastructure of their main AI competitors.
It's a power play, pure and simple.
Okay, moving from that general AI infrastructure to productivity AI, Google is testing a new solution for the modern ailment of email overload.
This is a direct response to cognitive saturation in the workplace. I think we all feel that. Google is rolling out tests of an AI-powered email productivity assistant for its AI Pro and Ultra plan users in North America.
And this is supposed to move beyond just simple automated replies.
It is. It functions as an intelligent filter and assistant. It promises to use conversational AI to triage massive volumes of messages, offering smart context-aware suggestions for responses, and automatically categorizing emails based on urgency and topic. It learns your behavior to improve its own efficiency.
The goal is to streamline professional workflow.
Right, acknowledging that the volume of digital communication in remote and hybrid work is now a fundamental block to actual productivity.
And on the crucial hardware side of AI, we saw a groundbreaking IPO that signals China's strategic intent to achieve semiconductor self-sufficiency.
That would be the Chinese AI chipmaker METIX Integrated Circuits. Their shares soared nearly 600% following their IPO.
Wow.
This phenomenal success is highly symbolic. In the face of intensifying international trade restrictions and U.S. export controls designed to choke off advanced chip technology, China is doubling down on cultivating a robust, domestic, self-sufficient ecosystem.
So investor confidence in Meta X is really a vote of confidence in that national strategy.
Completely. It shows total alignment with a national strategy to reduce reliance on U.S. technology.
Okay, shifting to entertainment, we are seeing the bizarre shifting allegiances in the streaming landscape. The irony here is just palpable.
It's hilarious.
Apple TV is officially adding support for Google Cast, while Netflix at the same time is abandoning the feature.
It's a perfect visual of the chaos in the market. Apple, which is famously protective of its own walled garden, is adopting Google's technology to ensure broader compatibility and market share.
And Netflix, which helped invent streaming, is dropping a feature users relied on, citing, what, unspecified strategic reasons.
Exactly. It just shows how aggressively these established tech giants are constantly and sometimes contradictorily reassessing their strategies in the war for user retention.
And the lines between social media and entertainment are completely blurring, now with Instagram bringing Reels to Amazon Fire TV.
This is a big move by Meta to increase user engagement. They're porting short-form, rapid-fire content to the biggest screen in the house.
But this move also intensifies the ethical scrutiny, doesn't it?
It has to. As Reels expands into a traditional long-form viewing environment, the challenges of content moderation, user privacy, and the mental health implications of continuous social media engagement, especially for younger demographics, they just become harder to manage and regulate.
Finally, let's talk media consolidation, which is reaching a fever pitch. We have a hostile bid for Warner Bros. Discovery $108 billion from Paramount Skydance.
And this bid is notable not just for its size, but for its complex and, frankly, controversial backing.
Where's the money coming from?
The financing is significantly bolstered by state-owned entities in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. This introduces a major geopolitical finance element into the American entertainment landscape.
And that raises questions about potential foreign influence over cultural content creation.
Absolutely. The role of figures like Jared Kushner in brokering this financing has already attracted intense ethical scrutiny from watchdogs.
And the chaos of the maneuvering continues. Despite that massive offer from Paramount, the latest news is that Warner Bros. Discovery leadership reportedly favors a competing offer from Netflix.
It just confirms that media conglomerates are under immense pressure to find the most secure, future-proof partner. The fact that the leadership is even considering a Netflix offer over the combined power of Paramount and massive Gulf state capital, it just underscores the immense power Netflix still holds in the content distribution market.
And how volatile the valuation of these legacy media assets remains.
Completely volatile.
Okay, so moving from corporate power struggles to geopolitical flashpoints, we have to transition to the massive and deeply divisive battle raging over frozen Russian sovereign assets.
And we have to maintain strict political balance here, reporting the claims and the counterclaims impartially.
Absolutely. So this situation is fundamentally tearing at the financial and legal integrity of the European Union.
It is. Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, the SVR, and we have to remember this is Russia's primary foreign intelligence arm, so their claims must be viewed through a highly politicized and strategic lens. They have alleged that the United Kingdom is urging the EU to seize $246 billion of the roughly $300 billion in frozen assets.
And the SVR's claimed motivation for this is staggering.
It is. They claim that the UK is pushing for this seizure specifically to undermine U.S. President Donald Trump's stated peace efforts regarding Ukraine.
So, economic coercion to hamstring a diplomatic strategy, that's the claim.
That's the claim. However, the situation is far more nuanced when we look inside the EU. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk revealed that the U.S. actually advised the EU against seizing the assets.
So the U.S. position is caution and negotiation, warning that full appropriation could jeopardize any future peace talks. That highlights a clear split between the U.S. and the U.K. on this.
A huge split. And the internal EU conflict is acute. Hungary, under Prime Minister Viktor Orban, vehemently opposes the seizure.
What's his argument?
Orban stated, Hungary would cease cooperation, arguing that the EU's use of Article 1 and 22 emergency powers, which is a clause allowing the EU to deploy emergency measures in a severe supply shortage, was a direct breach of law and stripped member states of their rights.
So this isn't just a financial debate, it's a constitutional and legal challenge to the power of Brussels.
That's exactly what it is.
And how is this impacting the war dynamics? The sources suggest a significant corruption scandal involving Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, has led to a push for renewed peace negotiations.
That's the reported consequence. The turmoil surrounding the corruption scandal in Zelensky's inner circle has reportedly opened the door to renewed talks. These talks are based on a U.S.-backed peace plan that Zelensky had previously flatly refused.
And what's the view from Moscow?
Russia, for its part, has expressed deep skepticism about the earnestness of European participation in these peace talks. They're insisting that any settlement must realistically reflect the current realities on the ground regarding territorial control.
But despite that alleged pressure to negotiate, President Zelensky is maintaining a firm, hardline stance.
He continues to refuse to cede any Ukrainian territory to Russia. So the negotiating environment is just incredibly unstable. You have internal political turmoil, external financial pressure from allies, and Russia's insistence on recognizing their current military gains.
A very volatile mix. Okay, let's shift now to a major escalation in U.S. foreign policy regarding Venezuela, which had an immediate market impact.
Yes, President Trump declared the Venezuelan government a terrorist organization and ordered a total and complete blockade of sanctioned oil tankers entering and exiting the country.
A physical blockade. This goes far beyond existing financial sanctions.
It's a powerful military-adjacent action designed to absolutely cripple the nation's primary revenue stream. And the market reacted instantly.
Global oil prices spiked.
Immediately. It reflects a fear of heightened restrictions on a key global supply pathway and drastically increases the economic isolation of Venezuela.
This unilateral, hardline approach immediately drew sharp criticism from regional leaders.
Particularly Mexico. Claudia Sheinbaum, the former head of government of Mexico City, criticized President Trump's declaration of fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction.
What was her argument?
She argued that this rhetoric dangerously oversimplifies a complex crisis that demands bilateral collaboration between Mexico and the U.S., rather than punitive, escalating, and unilateral sanctions.
That dynamic collaboration versus confrontation is central to the political debate. And Cuba also weighed in.
Cuba denounced the U.S. for allegedly practicing a double standard in its fight against drug trafficking. Cuban officials are advocating for a comprehensive, respectful cooperation model, pointing out the vulnerabilities in the U.S. approach to narcotics entering its own territories.
Suggesting the punitive approach ignores the root causes and supply chain complexities.
Exactly.
Okay, moving to domestic U.S. policy with enormous global implications, the Trump administration has significantly expanded the U.S. travel ban and restrictions.
This is a massive expansion. The administration says it's for national security reasons. It now includes full restrictions on visitors from 20 additional countries, nations like Syria, Palestine, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali.
And it also imposes partial restrictions on 15 others.
Yes, and that includes countries that are traditionally U.S. allies in the Caribbean, like Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, and Haiti.
The impact on those Caribbean allies has been palpable.
It has. Ambassador Sir Ronald Sanders of Antigua and Barbuda confirmed urgent discussions with the U.S. State Department. He expressed deep dissatisfaction with the characterization of their citizenship by investment programs, which were partly cited in the ban.
And there's also a new sweeping requirement for tourists from many countries.
Yes, tourists from 42 countries must now provide a 5-year social media history for security vetting before they can enter the U.S.
And what are the domestic human consequences of this intensified immigration and deportation policy?
The human cost is high, especially in the education sector. The fear among immigrant teachers in the U.S. is immense.
And they make up a significant portion of the teaching workforce.
Nearly 10% of U.S. teachers are foreign-born. The threat of deportation severely exacerbates chronic teacher shortages across the country, particularly in under-resourced districts. It's creating immense distress for both the educators and their students.
Across the Pacific, there is severe political tension in Taiwan right now, centered around funding and legislative authority.
Yes, Taiwan's government is locked in a fierce row with the opposition-controlled legislature. It's specifically over the cabinet's refusal to enforce amendments that would increase revenue allocated to local authorities.
And those amendments were largely demanded by the opposition Kuomintang party.
That's right. And this political impasse is raising national security risks. The opposition is accusing the administration of attempting to bypass the legislature, which raises serious constitutional concerns of the separation of powers.
And crucially, this could endanger military funding.
Exactly. Lawmakers have warned that this escalating financial dispute could directly endanger critical military funding allocations. And amid constantly rising threats from China, Delays or shortfalls in military spending are a profound national security worry for Taiwan and its allies.
Back in Latin America, the U.S. has made a decisive move concerning organized crime in Colombia that seems to be complicating the fragile peace process there.
The U.S. officially designated the Gatewist Army of Colombia, the EGC, also known as Clando Golfo, as a foreign terrorist organization, or FTO.
And the EGC is a powerful paramilitary group.
Very powerful. They solidified their influence through drug trafficking, illegal gold mining, and extortion.
So while that sounds like a necessary step to dismantle their financial networks, how does it affect the very delicate peace negotiations that are currently underway?
It complicates them immensely. The EGC is actively engaged in ongoing peace negotiations with the Colombian government in Qatar. The FTO designation exposes any supporters of the EGC to U.S. legal action, including banks or other facilitating entities.
So could it derail the momentum of those talks?
Analysts suggest it risks just that, forcing a choice between fighting crime and achieving peace through dialogue.
And finally, a notable diplomatic incident involving Canadian members of Parliament and Israel.
A 6-member delegation of Canadian MPs was denied entry into the occupied West Bank by Israeli authorities. They cited security reasons.
And they were attempting to travel from Jordan for a human rights trip.
Right, aimed at meeting with Palestinian officials. And the context of Canada's recent foreign policy shift here is crucial.
It is. This refusal of entry follows Canada's recent highly consequential recognition of an independent Palestinian state.
A move that drew strong ire from Israeli authorities. The incident highlights the growing complexities regarding transparency and access for international observers in the West Bank, particularly when nations take diplomatic stances opposed to the Israeli government's position. One MP even reported being physically mishandled by border agents,
Underscoring the severity of the confrontation.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's shift our attention now to global economics, focusing on inflation, trade disputes, and that concerning intersection of AI and consumer cost.
And the inflation story, which has gripped the world for years, is finally showing some signs of relief in the United Kingdom.
This is genuinely encouraging news for British consumers.
It is. UK inflation fell more than expected, dropping significantly from the 3.6% recorded back in October. And this slowdown was primarily driven by lower prices for essential household items, clothing, and, critically, food.
So what flexibility does this sudden slowdown provide for the Bank of England, the BOE?
It gives them a substantial opening. If inflation continues to slow, it may prompt the central bank to reassess its aggressive, high-interest rate monetary stance and potentially lower rates earlier than planned. A rate cut would be necessary to stimulate growth, which the UK economy desperately needs.
Across the Atlantic, though, the U.S. economy remains a significant political liability for President Donald Trump, according to new polling data.
A recent Reuters Ipsos poll showed that President Trump's approval rating has dropped to 39% overall. And crucially, only 33% approved of his handling of the economy. That's the lowest approval figure since the start of his second term.
And the primary driver of this discontent is clear: the rising cost of living.
Absolutely. A Politico survey drilled down on this, and it revealed that 55% of Americans specifically associate Trump's policies with increasing food prices and the overall cost of living. His approval rating on cost of living issues specifically fell to a mere 27%.
So despite the president's attempts to dismiss these financial pressures, the data shows that inflation is the main political headwind for his administration.
Without a doubt.
And this consumer anxiety about rising costs takes us to a fascinating and deeply concerning intersection of AI and commerce, the rise of what's being called surveillance pricing on platforms like Instacart.
This is a major insight for anyone who shops online. Instacart, the grocery delivery giant, is reportedly leveraging advanced AI and a technology called Eversight to generate dynamic, personalized price discrepancies for individual users.
Surveillance pricing sounds ominous. Functionally, how does this AI mechanism work to generate different costs for different people?
It's dynamic price optimization, but taken to a micro level. So prices are no longer based just on general supply and demands or, loyalty programs. They are dynamically adjusted based on granular user data, past purchase history, your perceived price sensitivity, or even whether you subscribe to Instacart plus Lakey.
So what's the tangible cost?
A study involving surveyed volunteers revealed it. This algorithmic approach could cost Instacart users up to an extra $1,200 annually on groceries compared to standard rates.
$1,200 a year. That is a colossal hidden cost embedded in the convenience of the service.
It is. So AI isn't just making shopping easier. It might be stealthily inflating the cost of living for individual consumers who are deemed willing or able to pay more.
This has to raise serious ethical and regulatory questions.
It does. While Instacart defends this by claiming fluctuations correspond to real-time supply and demand, regulators are scrutinizing these algorithmic pricing strategies very closely. The risk is immense consumer distrust and the potential for systemic unfair practices. Transparency and fairness have to catch up to the technological capability.
Moving to international trade, the much-debated EU-Mercosur free trade deal, which has been in negotiation for 2 decades, has stalled yet again.
The delay is a direct result of strong agricultural protests, particularly in France and Italy. Farmers in both nations are demanding tougher safeguards to protect their domestic agricultural interests from a potential influx of cheaper South American products.
So it's the classic trade standoff, the promise of massive economic growth versus the immediate threat to domestic livelihoods.
Precisely. This standoff highlights the immense political pressure on European officials. They're trying to balance the broad macroeconomic benefits against the powerful, deeply rooted domestic agricultural lobbies that fear unfair competition. It's a protectionist hurdle the EU continuously struggles to clear.
And related to that balancing act between economics and climate, the European Commission just executed a major and very controversial policy reversal.
They abandoned the planned 2035 ban on new petrol and diesel vehicles. This was intended to be a landmark climate policy, forcing the transition to electric vehicles.
But they reversed course.
They did, choosing instead to prioritize the economic stability of the struggling European automotive industry.
That is a staggering concession to economic realism over ambitious environmental targets. What was the driving argument from the automakers?
They successfully argued that the transition to EVs needed to be more gradual. They cited insufficient charging infrastructure, high manufacturing costs, and lagging consumer incentives. So the reversal signals the EU's clear decision to support jobs and economic health in a critical sector, even if it means slowing the pace of emission reductions.
On the labor front, there is some positive movement. The UK Employment Rights Bill successfully cleared its final parliamentary hurdle.
That is a notable milestone for worker welfare. It focuses on job security and workplace protections that address the needs of a modern, flexible economy. It now just awaits formal approval.
However, the outlook for the next generation, Gen Z, seems increasingly fraught, particularly with student debt and job prospects.
We are seeing an alarming increase in Generation Z missing their student loan payments, and the causes are deeply interconnected. You have record-high student debt relative to their entry-level incomes, coupled with a worrying scarcity of those very entry-level positions.
And is the tech we discussed earlier, AI and automation, playing a direct role in that job scarcity?
It is, undoubtedly. The job landscape is being fundamentally reshaped. Automation and AI are absorbing or reducing the need for many entry-level white-collar and administrative roles that traditionally provided the first rung on the financial ladder for recent graduates.
Which generates this deep-rooted structural anxiety about financial stability.
Exactly. It raises fundamental questions about the long-term viability and return on investment of current higher education models.
Finally, a quick note on corporate governance. We saw a leadership shakeup at the prominent UK digital bank, Monzo.
Yes, T.S. Anil, the CEO of Monzo Bank, was reportedly ousted by the board. And this is despite the company achieving phenomenal recent growth, reaching 12.5 million customers and reporting a substantial annual profit.
So why the ousting?
Internal disagreements over the timing of the company's initial public offering, the IPO. It just underscores the immense pressure from investors demanding an exit strategy, even when a company is demonstrably successful and profitable as a private entity.
And a quick positive note on sustainability. Rax, a Canadian peer-to-peer clothing rental company, is expanding to the U.S.
A circular economy model gaining traction, which is great to see.
And we also saw Universal receive planning permission for its first UK theme park opening in 2031.
A huge commercial real estate bet. And Slate Auto has amassed 150,000 reservations for its EV pickup truck, which is interesting despite the broader public waning enthusiasm for the general EV truck sector.
It seems specific players can still generate that high demand.
Well, apparently so.
Okay, segment 5 takes us from the sobering realities of environmental crises to some surprising archaeological discoveries that are redefining our understanding of ancient human intelligence.
And let's start with the dark side of pollution, specifically in our oceans.
Scientists estimate that roughly 8 million tons of plastic debris enter marine environments every year.
And this debris doesn't just float. It breaks down into microplastics, these particles that are smaller than 5 millimeters long. And the accumulation of these microplastics is now being described by scientists using some terrifying imagery.
Microplastic tornadoes.
That's the terminology they use. Highly concentrated, churning regions of dense microplastic accumulation in the ocean columns. The formation of these dense zones severely complicates any cleanup and mitigation efforts.
So the plastic we generate isn't just dispersing, it is consolidating into these permanent, hard-to-reach environmental hazards.
That's the crisis.
On a planetary scale, the transition away from fossil fuels is hitting severe financial turbulence, particularly regarding global coal demand.
Yeah, global coal demand is worryingly expected to stabilize or decline only marginally through 2030. And this demand is relentlessly driven by economic growth and population expansion in Southeast Asia and India, which rely heavily on coal for cheap, reliable energy.
What's preventing these nations from transitioning faster, especially given all the international climate commitments and pressure?
A major factor is the failure of the Just Energy Transition Partnerships, or JGTPs. These were designed to facilitate coal-to-clean energy transitions in developing nations,
But they're failing.
largely due to inadequate and inconsistent funding commitments from wealthier nations. This financial shortfall is forcing countries like Indonesia to scale back their plans to retire coal capacity, pushing significant closures past the 2035 mark. It's a stark conflict between immediate economic needs and long-term climate goals.
While coal use remains a problem, China is showcasing some significant technological contributions toward a greener grid, and they're sharing their expertise in pollution control.
Yeah, China is engaging in what you could call green diplomacy. At the COP30 climate talks in Belém, Brazil, they debuted a video showcasing their ultra-high voltage, or UHV, power transmission technology.
And this technology is highlighted for its incredible efficiency.
Right, in facilitating long-distance power transfer, enabling massive energy saving and emission reduction by connecting solar and wind power from remote areas to dense population centers.
And their embassy is sharing a practical playbook with Delhi, which is currently suffering under hazardous air quality.
This is a highly pragmatic move. The Chinese embassy shared a comprehensive guide detailing the strategies Beijing used to transform itself from the notorious smog capital to a cleaner city.
So things like stricter emission controls, promoting public transportation.
Exactly. It provides Delhi with proven strategies to combat its own severe smog crisis.
We must also acknowledge the intense human cost embedded in environmental cleanup, specifically in Vietnam's informal artisanal recycling industry.
The sources here highlight the true dark side of recycling in impoverished areas. Due to a lack of poverty and lack of regulation, workers manually process waste, exposing themselves to immense pollution and severe health risks from toxic metals and chemicals.
The work is crucial for environmental stewardship, but the cost to human health is unacceptable.
It is. It's generating calls for immediate regulatory measures to provide safer working conditions.
Shifting to our dynamic planet, we have two fascinating ecological and geological studies. First, the surprising migratory puzzle of the majestic bald eagle.
This study confirms that bald eagles are shifting their traditional migratory patterns. They are exhibiting behavioral plasticity, adapting their movements based on real-time environmental factors, specifically food availability and temperature fluctuations from climate change.
So their internal biological clock is taking a back seat to immediate environmental indicators.
Exactly. Warmer winters might prompt them to stay north longer, for example, as ice-free waters allow for continued access to prey. This behavioral flexibility is a major indicator of broader ecological changes.
So the eagle shifting schedule is a highly visible reflection of significant systemic disruptions.
Driven by climate change, yes.
Meanwhile, the Iberian Peninsula, consisting of Spain and Portugal, is also moving, just much more slowly.
A geological study confirms that the Iberian Peninsula is slowly rotating, driven by the colossal dynamic forces of tectonic plates. It showcases the continuous, often unnoticed forces that shape our planet over deep time.
And in South America, major environmental protests are underway in Argentina.
Protests are targeting the government's extractivist agenda, particularly concerning the proposed glacier law. This law threatens crucial ice reserves necessary for long-term climate regulation and water supply. And the government's recent budget proposal indicates a definite retreat from environmental protections,
setting up an intense clash between economic resource extraction and ecological preservation.
a major one.
Finally, let's travel back in time for some stunning archaeological discoveries, starting with the concept that fundamentally challenges our narrative of early human ingenuity, the idea of math before numbers.
This is truly foundational research. It's on 8,000-year-old Halafian pottery from northern Mesopotamia. And the intricate designs on this pottery, featuring complex symmetry, geometric repeats, sophisticated patterns, they reveal that these ancient societies possessed a deep, intuitive understanding of mathematics and geometry far earlier than conventionally assumed.
So they were capable of advanced geometric concepts like symmetry and pattern analysis without having developed a formal numerical system or written symbols for calculation.
That's the profound challenge this poses to archaeology. It suggests that intellectual and mathematical capabilities can evolve in parallel paths. Their understanding of geometry wasn't just decorative, it likely played a functional role in agricultural layouts, construction, and societal structures. It forces us to revise our whole narrative.
And speaking of challenging assumptions about successful empires, archaeologists in Switzerland uncovered remnants of a Roman administrative center that was conceptualized but, strangely, never finished.
Near the Limit River, experts found remnants of an ancient Roman center dating to the 1st century AD. It was planned as a significant urban hub, but for reasons we don't know, maybe logistics, funding, political shifts, it never fully transitioned from plan to reality.
They found over 1,600 artifacts. What does an incomplete city tell us about the Roman Empire that a successful one, like Rome itself, doesn't?
It reveals the complexity and the occasional logistical failure of Roman urban ambitions. We often focus on the grand, successful projects, but this site shows that imperial expansion was dynamic and sometimes resulted in unrealized dreams or abandoned ventures. It kind of humanizes the empire's planning efforts.
We now transition to some sobering news, focusing on tragedy, the pursuit of justice, and controversial shifts in public health guidelines. We start with the horrific events surrounding the Bondi Beach massacre in Sydney, Australia.
Australian police have charged Naveed Akram with 59 offenses, including 15 counts of murder and terror charges following the tragic attack during a Jewish community event.
And the investigation has found evidence linking the suspect to the Islamic State, or IS, group.
Yes, including IS flags found in his vehicle and confirmation of a recent trip to a militant-associated province in the Philippines.
Yeah.
The public grief surrounding this low-cost, high-impact act of terror has just been immense.
Especially for the youngest victims and community leaders.
The funerals have been incredibly profound. Among those honored was Rabbi Eli Schlanger, a beloved figure, and 10-year-old Matilda, the youngest victim. Her mother delivered a heartbreaking tribute at a packed memorial, underscoring the devastating societal impact and the profound sense of loss that has rocked Sydney.
On the other side of the world, a private tragedy has shocked the Hollywood community, the deaths of director Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle.
Their son, Nick Reiner, has been charged with the murder of both of his parents, who were found fatally stabbed at their home.
It's just jarring to see a tragedy that severe shatter a family known for bringing so much laughter to the screen through their work.
It is. Tributes have poured in from Hollywood figures like Billy Crystal and Larry David, highlighting the immense contrast between the couple's celebrated public lives and the hidden familial conflict that tragically led to this end.
It raises immediate and difficult conversations about mental health and domestic violence.
Across all societal profiles.
And we have a deeply disturbing case involving an egregious breach of ethics and public trust at a prestigious medical institution.
Cedric Lodge, the former manager of the Harvard Medical School morgue, was sentenced to 8 years in prison for the illicit theft and sale of body parts taken from cadavers that were donated for medical research.
She was found guilty of transporting stolen goods.
Heads, faces, brains, skin, hands across state lines. This heinous breach violates the fundamental trust placed in institutions of learning and science and has generated rightful outrage.
Turning to public health, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, has made a significant and controversial policy change regarding childhood vaccines in the U.S.
The CDC officially stopped recommending the universal hepatitis B vaccine for all U.S. newborns. They are shifting instead toward a risk-based approach.
What's their reasoning?
It aligns with their advisory committee's view that a blanket mandate for all infants is no longer necessary, given changing epidemiology and lower prevalence in the general population.
What is the core of the controversy dividing public health advocates on this?
Well, those who oppose the change view it as a significant step backward in population-wide protection. They fear it could lead to reduced overall immunization rates and create barriers to access.
And those who support it?
They argue it represents a more tailored, evidence-based approach to vaccination protocols, focusing resources where the risk factors are demonstrably highest. It renews that complex debate about the balance between broad public health mandates and personalized medical protocols.
In New York, Governor Kathy Hochul reached a deal on a major ethical and legislative issue, medically assisted suicide.
Governor Hochul announced a deal to legalize medically assisted suicide for terminally ill patients, ensuring the bill includes significant safety guardrails for implementation to protect vulnerable populations.
And she spoke about her personal struggle with the decision.
She did. Hochul, who is Catholic, spoke candidly about balancing her deep personal beliefs with the needs of her constituents, emphasizing the right of terminally ill New Yorkers to make this difficult and deeply personal decision.
On the younger demographic front, there is a clear public health concern regarding nicotine use in the UK.
A study shows a significant rise in nicotine pouch use, specifically among young men aged 16 to 24 in the UK. About 7.5% reported usage.
And these pouches are marketed aggressively as a smoke-free, discreet alternative.
Right. And health experts are rightly concerned that these targeted marketing strategies are leading to long-term nicotine dependency in this demographic, who may falsely perceive these products as entirely safe alternatives to traditional smoking.
Finally, let's connect the ongoing labor disputes in England's healthcare system with the current winter health surge.
Resident doctors in England initiated another 5-day walkout, the British Medical Association, or BMA, strike, which coincided with the severe surge in flu cases.
And Labour leader Keir Starmer classified this walkout as dangerous given the timing.
He did, highlighting the potential critical impact on patient care during an already challenging winter period. The strike just underscores the ongoing deep-seated tensions between medical professionals and the government over pay, working conditions, and the long-term structural sustainability of the National Health Service.
We conclude our deep dive with high-stakes political battles, institutional accountability, and the ever-present tension surrounding freedom of expression and digital regulation.
And we begin with President Trump's ongoing legal and media confrontations. First, he is proceeding with his defamation lawsuit against the BBC.
This claim centers on the BBC's editing of his speech in a Panorama documentary.
Right, which he asserts was misleadingly edited to damage his reputation. And the BBC's stance on this is critical to global journalism. They are committed to vigorously defending their journalistic integrity and editorial independence.
So this legal action is being closely watched by media experts globally,
as it touches on the potential chilling effect of defamation suits when reporting on powerful political figures.
A far more serious legal development involves the testimony of former Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith.
Jack Smith testified in a closed-door interview with U.S. lawmakers, and the key nugget of information that was revealed was extremely provocative.
What did he say?
He stated that his investigative team possessed substantial evidence, specifically proof beyond a reasonable doubt, against President Trump regarding two critical issues: attempts to overturn the 2020 election and the illegal retention of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago.
And while the interview was confidential, that phrase, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, is incredibly significant coming from a prosecutorial authority.
It is the legal standard required for conviction. Smith's testimony, held amidst ongoing Republican criticism regarding the impartiality of his investigations, highlights the immense pressure and politically charged environment surrounding the legal processes related to the president.
Adding some high-level insight into the administration is the incredible candor revealed by White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles in a Vanity Fair interview.
Wiles offered genuinely candid and frankly shocking insights into the administration's inner workings. She controversially characterized President Trump as having an alcoholic's personality.
Referring to his temperament, not his drinking habits.
Right, referring to his strong, possessive, and dominating temperament, despite the fact that he is a teetotaler.
And she didn't stop there.
No, she labeled tech mogul Elon Musk an odd duck and offered criticisms of former Attorney General Pam Bondi. Unsurprisingly, Wiles subsequently condemned the Vanity Fair piece as a hit piece that misrepresented her words.
While President Trump publicly defended her competence and fierce loyalty.
It really pulls back the curtain on the intense and sometimes brutal political dynamics inside the White House.
Moving to global accountability, we have a landmark ruling coming out of South Korea regarding abuse of power.
A South Korean court ruled that ex-President Yoon Suk-yeol's 2024 attempt to impose martial law was unconstitutional and unlawful.
This is a monumental legal precedent.
It is particularly significant since the country's democratization in 1987. Yoon now faces potential conviction on charges that could lead to life imprisonment or even the death penalty. It underscores the severity of misusing executive power to subvert democracy.
In Tunisia, the democratic gains achieved during the Arab Spring appear to be eroding.
Activists and relatives of political prisoners are expressing profound concerns that the country is steadily sliding back towards authoritarianism 15 years after the Arab Spring began.
And they cite President Kais Saied's systematic dismantling of democratic institutions.
Yes, suppression of dissent and unprecedented control over the judiciary and the political process. It's a sad reminder of how fragile democratic transitions can be.
And long-running corruption allegations are catching up to a former French president.
Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy, his wife Carla Bruni Sarkozy, and 9 others face possible indictment for witness tampering. This relates to investigations that Sarkozy allegedly received illegal campaign financing from Libya's Muammar Gaddafi regime for his 2007 presidential campaign.
The fact that high-level institutional figures can be held accountable years later is a global trend we continue to track.
It's an important one.
Finally, let's discuss the global tensions surrounding freedom of expression and online regulation. Australia has taken a dramatic first-of-its-kind step regarding social media access for minors.
Australia became the first democracy globally to legislate a social media ban for children under the age of 16, effective December 10, 2025.
And this move is squarely aimed at protecting youth mental health.
Amidst rising concerns about online toxicity, bullying, and predatory behavior. Unsurprisingly, this legislation is already facing significant legal challenges from major tech companies who argue it infringes on their commercial interests and freedom of expression.
Meanwhile, the tension between free speech and concerns over incitement remains acute, particularly in the UK.
Both the Metropolitan Police and Greater Manchester Police in the UK announced they will investigate and make arrests concerning chants of globalize the Intifada, heard at recent large protests.
This highlights the difficult challenge law enforcement faces globally.
It's about balancing the fundamental protected right to protest and freedom of speech against concerns over language that may constitute incitement to hatred or public disorder.
And domestically in the U.S., there are First Amendment concerns being raised within the military itself regarding political speech.
U.S. military personnel are reportedly self-censoring and proactively scrubbing their social media activity due to a Pentagon crackdown on political speech. This is raising serious alarms among legal experts about what is described as a potential abuse of command power and possible infringements on the First Amendment rights of service members.
Forcing them to choose between their career and their freedom of expression.
It's a difficult position to be in.
That was a tremendous amount of ground we covered in this deep dive. I mean, if you've been with us, you've navigated everything from the necessity of recycling 85% of astronaut urine for lunar missions to the complexities of an 8,000-year-old geometric puzzle in Mesopotamia.
We've seen science continue to break new, unexpected ground JWST, radically redefining how planets are formed by discovering these gravitational shields. And yet, political and economic tensions are just intensifying globally.
Whether it's the profound internal EU conflict over Russian assets threatening European legal norms, or the new U.S. travel bans creating massive distress for educators and students domestically.
And crucially, we observe the ultimate tension of the modern era. Technology solving problems in one area, only to create these insidious ethical challenges in another.
Right. AI can write your email and increase your productivity, but the same underlying technology is being leveraged for surveillance pricing on Instacart, potentially costing consumers an extra $1,200 a year.
The core lesson for you today is that understanding the why behind the headlines often reveals a pattern of unintended consequences and systemic conflicts. Technological innovation, when it's divorced from ethical oversight, subtly increases consumer costs.
And geopolitical policy, like the U.S. blockading oil tankers, instantly manifests as a spike in global market prices.
And climate change doesn't just raise sea levels. It subtly shifts the age-old migratory patterns of magnificent birds like bald eagles.
That constant tension between immediate economic necessity and existential climate goals was perhaps the most defining theme of the day. The EU just rolled back a major climate policy, the 2035 combustion engine ban, to protect its automotive sector and jobs.
And meanwhile, developing nations are scaling back their coal retirement plans because wealthier nations haven't provided the committed funding through the GTTPs. It leaves us with a critical and persistent question for you to mull over. Given this constant existential tension between immediate economic necessity and long-term climate goals, How quickly will global society permit genuine, transformative technological breakthroughs, like those sophisticated small modular reactors or China's ultra-high voltage transmission technology, to truly shift these deeply entrenched, job-dependent industrial practices? Will economics always be the ultimate governor on science and planetary survival?
That's a profound thought to wrap up today's deep dive. We've covered a colossal amount of complex ground, and hopefully we've provided you with the necessary foundational knowledge and the connective threads to navigate these shifting global narratives. Until next time, keep digging deeper.
For enjoying Artificially Informed.
Hit subscribe and share it with a friend.
From the left, the right, and straight from the algorithm.
Thank you.
That's it for today's Artificially Informed.
Nope. Thanks for spending your time with us.
Yeah.
Stay sharp, stay curious. See you next time.